Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Siblings in Crime.
I'm Ellie Rossell.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds,
we are siblings who love true crime.
Wow, look at you doing the little intro this time. You did so good.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be a regular.
Nah.
Well, like I said, welcome back. Glad to be here. This week, like we said last time, we decided to go more on the conspiracy side. I don't know if that word is allowed on YouTube. Everyone makes it sound so suspicious on their channels.
Mm-hmm. We got to have a word for it like everyone else does. It's going to be unknown.
Unknown. Yeah. The allegedlys.
Yeah, the allegedlys.
So that is going to be this week's case. The allegedlys, unknown of some sort. Yes. But before we get into it, Blake, how was your week?
My week was good. Let me think about it. I don't even know what I did. I did not go to Des Moines. I went to Boston the week before.
Just working on the houses?
Yeah, working on the houses. Went to church. Stayed busy somehow. I can't really remember.
I feel like that's how my week was too. It felt like it was a lot, but also nothing notable.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I
play some FIFA.
That's sick.
I know, I haven't played in a long time.
Very nice. I go to Vegas tomorrow for my annual proficiency check, which I'm not excited about. I think I have Vegas PTSD. Don't love that place. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited for next week is all I'm saying about that.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything else to add, as we say every week, please like, subscribe, follow, comment. Am I missing any of them?
Subscribe.
I said that.
Oh. Yeah, I did that last time, I think, too.
I think so, too.
A friend.
Friend
us on Facebook.
So all of them, please go support. It means so much to us.
We're just humble YouTube and podcasters.
We're just newbies. We need all the love and support.
Yeah.
So
we only have 28 followers on YouTube.
Yes, I love how you know the numbers so well.
Subscribers.
20 subscribers. Where are we at on TikTok? And
TikTok, I don't know, 34, I think. And Instagram, 76.
Everyone should be happy, though, because those numbers have upped since the last time you gave us a stat.
Yeah.
So we are excited. Progress everywhere. So thank you for the support. It means a lot. It goes a long way.
Yes, it does.
Like I said last week, we were like, this is the week we're going into the alleged type of case.
The allegedly tales.
And in today's case, we're actually going to rewind back to August of 1991. This is where the Sheraton Inn in Martinsburg, West Virginia, is quiet, tucked away just off I-81 in room 517 is where we're going to begin. When the maid opens the door, the scene is horrific, as they say. A man lies in the bathtub, wrist brutally slashed, the tub and surrounding areas stained deep red, a single-edged razor beside him. On a nearby counter, a bottle of Tylenol with codeine, and on the desk, a handwritten note, quote, "To those who I love the most, please forgive me for the worst possible thing I could have done. Most of all, I'm sorry to my son. I know deep down inside that God will let me in," end quote. Local authorities ruled it a suicide, but many who knew Danny Casolaro say there's too much evidence to point to the contrary. To them, this was a homicide to silence a man who knew too much. This isn't just the story of a man who died mysteriously. It's a story of what he died chasing. He called it the Octopus, a sprawling web of government corruption, stolen technology, assassinations, and underground operations. And he believed it to have cost people their careers, their reputation, and their lives. So, let's go back. Before the blood, before the razor, before the name Octopus became a whispered warning among conspiracies or allegedly researchers. That's going to be a hard thing to transfer. Mm-hmm. Let's meet the man who gave his life trying to expose this octopus. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll. Before he ever stepped into the hotel in West Virginia, Danny Casolaro was already in deep. He wasn't a career journalist per se in the traditional sense. He wasn't backed by any major outlet. He wasn't affiliated with any newsroom or legal team. He was actually a freelance writer. working mostly alone from his home in Virginia. But what he lacked in backing, he made up for obsession. He was
wow.
like super involved and excited about moving on with any case he took on. He was like all in, which I respect a guy who just
Goes all in.
yeah, just like I love when people are passionate about whatever they do.
Yeah.
And this was Danny.
That's how you become good at it. Like, he sounds like he was really good at this.
Right. And that's funny because, so even backing it further, after graduating from Providence College in 1968, he got married, they had a son, and he embarked on his writing career. But just 12 years later, he was divorced, and he actually had full custody of his son. So he worked hard, but people who knew him, they say that he wasn't very great with financial decisions. And so although he had the drive, he had the hard work, and he kept him and his son afloat, with opportunities coming and going, there was definitely tough times. By early 1990, Danny wanted to go all in investigating reporting, and that's exactly what he did. A friend had suggested that he look into what seemed to be an interesting corrupt government type of case, just kind of get his foot back into the door. Little did he know this was the tip of the iceberg. This one suggestion led Danny on the biggest hunt of his life. It started slow, as most things do, as he's starting to kind of learn more about what this tip was. But after a year of deep investigating, a spiral web of speculation around known scandals came to light. So, this is where we're going in heavy swinging, so pay attention.
All right, I'm paying attention.
The Iran-Contra.
Let's say conspiracy.
All right?
YOLO.
Yeah. So if this gets taken down on YouTube, we will be sad.
Yeah.
But then at least we will know.
Yes.
All right. So the Iran-Contra, which was like the political scandal in the United States that centered on arms trafficking to Iran.
Barry Seal, I think, was a part of that.
Wow. You're up with it. Yeah, this was like with the senior officials in the Ronald Reagan administration, and this was in the early to mid 80s. So this was like a big scandal at the time, along with the BCCI banking scandal, which was like a massive money laundering and financial crimes at the time.
Yeah.
So like the collapse of like the financial empires, like all these things and much more to him were all connected, part of a massive hidden infrastructure. And it all started with a piece of software, believe it or not. The PROMIS program. Have you heard of it?
No,
or
I haven't.
PROMIS. I don't know. I've never heard anyone say it now that I think about it. It's PROMIS, short for Prosecutors Management Information System.
PROMIS sounds cool.
All right, we're going to do PROMIS. That way you don't get confused if I'm just saying the word promise.
Yeah.
But PROMIS, back in the 1970s, a small Washington, D.C. company called Inslaw Inc. developed a sophisticated case management system for the United States, like Department of Justice. It was revolutionary for its time. It's funny now, like seeing Google, literally any like software ever, like it can do everything. But at the time, it could track complex legal cases, link defendants, associations, investigators. Basically, it was like a search bar for court cases.
Yeah.
So at the time,
can you imagine how hard that would be before the internet?
Oh my gosh.
To be like,
guys, you have to trust me on this.
or you'd have to like hear about one and be like, oh, that might be connected to this one case that I heard about.
God. Oh yeah, you're saying that's true. You're like going through like old files trying to find like connections to cases. That sounds like a nightmare.
Just reading people's notes from like the last guy.
You're like, dang, what does this word say? We're screwed. Yeah, seriously. And so obviously this is a big deal. The DOJ initially licensed PROMIS under contract, but then things got kind of weird with that. Inslaw claimed that after developing an enhanced version of PROMIS with its own funds, the DOJ stole the upgraded software and distributed it illegally and deliberately tried to drive their company into bankruptcy. And so the founders obviously took DOJ to court. They're like, you took our software that we were going to go in on deal with.
That's kind of weird sounding.
What do you mean?
Like taking the DOJ to court?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's as uncommon as we would think.
Yeah, probably not.
But surprisingly, sometimes like you're like, oh, no one's ever going to win against the DOJ. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, the federal bankruptcy judge later ruled that the DOJ had engaged in trickery, fraud, and deceit. And Danny Casolaro thought the theft was just the beginning. We're going to kind of go into what's called the backdoor theory of this PROMIS. Multiple sources told Danny that PROMIS had been modified secretly by U.S. intelligence. A backdoor was added, allowing those who installed it, basically, they can spy on anyone who installed it. And so the U.S. government was like, we're going to give this to everybody. And which I'm like, kind of smart, but probably very illegal. They ended up selling it to over 40 foreign governments, law enforcement agencies, and banks, all while transmitting their secrets back to American intelligence. If true, it meant that promos had become the ultimate surveillance tool, and it was literally everywhere in the world. But that wasn't even the start of it. Danny Casolaro began interviewing former CIA contractors, arms dealers, and whistleblowers who claimed Promise was just one aspect of something much bigger. To dumb it down in the simplest terms, it's basically like they went and gave these people like a journal to write in. They wrote in it, and you can take it back, look at it, and have basically their playbook of their government affairs.
Yeah. Just like the easiest way to spy ever.
Yeah, like literally the biggest hack ever for a government to overthrow literally any other government.
Yeah, or spy on them.
Or spy on them, right.
Not just overthrow.
Right. The reason I say overthrow is because Danny himself believed that because of this, they're able to kind of manipulate world affairs and events to be in favor of the United States. He even called it the perfect Trojan horse. A tool so powerful and so quietly embedded in governments around the world that whoever controlled it didn't need to start wars to win them because they already knew what everyone was planning to do with that playbook.
Yeah, I already know what they're thinking.
What's that?
No, I'm saying like the government already knew what they were thinking.
I think you meant like you know something that we don't. Yeah, exactly. So they're like 5 steps ahead of everybody else. In Danny's mind, this was just one tentacle that reached to more than 40 countries, hence giving it the name Octopus. So although Promise was where he started, that was just one aspect to a greater network. Danny told friends that every time he thought he had reached the end of the story, another little tentacle would pop up. And to him, it all fit in one puzzle. He once described it as a global secretive group, almost like cult-like, with roots in the Cold War, tangled through intelligence agencies, defense contractors, and organized crime. He wasn't chasing a single conspiracy anymore. He believed that he was tracing an outline of a system, one that could rewrite history quite literally. Dang. Which is crazy because he goes into like JFK files. He goes in 9/11. He's like, everything all of a sudden seems connected to him. We're not going to dive into literally every story ever today. Yeah. We want to know more about Danny himself, but that just shows you like how deep he was into this conspiracy.
Yeah.
By the summer of 1991, Danny Casolaro told everyone that he was close. He was meeting with news sources, and he said he had proof. He then booked a ticket to Martinsburg, West Virginia, and he promised he'd be back with the story that would change everything, along with his last words, "If I'm found dead, don't believe it was an accident." Suspicious to me already.
Yeah.
So now we're on August 8th, 1991. This is the last week of Danny's life. Danny Casolaro checked into room 517 as we started with the story at the Sheraton Inn in Martinsburg, West Virginia. He informed friends and family that he was meeting a crucial source with promise to provide the final piece of his investigation, into which he termed the Octopus. Witnesses, including hotel staff, recalled seeing Casolaro with a brown briefcase, presumably containing his notes and documents. According to his friends and family, he was the type, he was like a writer through and through. He had his journals, his folders. He had everything on him at all times. Rarely was he seen empty-handed. Yeah. Like, he's looking for his sources.
Yeah, probably ready to write anything down that might be interesting.
Right. And he's
or anything you could think of, or...
He's trying to meet with these people all the time. So I imagine it's like, if he ever just has a thought that connects anything, he wants to write down right then. Yeah. And also, we're in early 90s, so pen and paper is a pretty common way to handle that. Yeah. So he's known to always have these things, and multiple witnesses he did, in fact, have it in West Virginia as well. So on August 9th now, the next day, around 2 p.m., Danny met with William Turner, who was a Virginia-based engineer type, who provided him with documents alleging corruption at a local defense plant. May I add, everything in the story always is going to be allegedly. Yeah. However, the material was only indirectly related to Danny's broader investigation. And so later that day, Danny was seen at the Stone Crab Inn bar where he appeared introspective, and engaged in conversation with Patreons, which is funny to me. He seems like such a friendly guy. He goes on, as he's at this little bar thing downstairs.
Yeah.
He's interacting with this guy named Mike Looney, who just coincidentally is, I don't know about coincidentally, he's staying across the adjacent room of Danny. And they meet, so they're hanging out. So it seems like Danny's not the type to shy away from just having conversations with people.
Yeah.
So he's meeting people. Yeah, he's out, he's chatting. His family says he's not a heavy drinker. He's more of a social drinker. So it sounds like he was just meeting people, as he, assumingly, to other people, said he seems like he was just waiting around to meet with somebody. So he's just kind of
killing time.
Yeah, chatting, killing time, hanging out with those around him. Nothing really crazy or suspicious. But Mike Looney actually got not investigated. He got questioned and see what he knew as a witness. And he says that it seems as though Danny mentioned that he was waiting for someone, and he was supposed to meet with him at 9 p.m. that night. But after stepping out to make a phone call, Mike said that Danny returned, indicating that the source might have just canceled.
Oh, man.
So we're under the impression that Mike knew he was supposed to meet someone. Is he going to show up? We're not sure. That's what we hear about the night before. Around 10 p.m., Danny was observed purchasing coffee at a nearby convenience store, and this was the last known sighting of Danny.
So the guy canceled. Now he's buying coffee?
Yeah.
Like he's going to drink it? Or he's just buying like a...
I don't know if he's like... I don't know if he's like
That's
buying...
late to drink coffee.
Some people have it with like their desserts or whatever. But decaf, maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
true.
he's like buying coffee to like make for the next morning type, or if he's like, I'm probably going to stay up late tonight. I'm still waiting for the person to show up.
Yeah, I was thinking either that or he was writing he's going to write all night or late into the night or something about
what he's finding.
Any theory that he has.
I mean, very likely, at least according to his family, this was like really taking over his life. So whether he was staying up all night intentionally or whether he was just like on a stroll, still killing time, trying to wait for somebody, we don't know what his intentions were. We just know that's the last time he was seen. That brings us back to where we started. Okay. August 10th, 1991, Sheraton in Martinsburg, West Virginia. At approximately 12 p.m., housekeeping staff discovered the lifeless body of investigative journalist Danny Casolaro in the bathtub of room 517. The scene was gruesome, as it kind of sounded in the beginning. His wrist had been deeply slashed. This is kind of weird to me. We have 8 cuts on the left, 4 on the right, with wounds reportedly severing a tendon, so deep. Along with the razor blade found was empty beer cans, 2 white plastic trash bags, and a half-empty wine bottle nearby. And, of course, the suicide note that we discussed. Authorities see this. They quickly ruled a suicide, citing the following points. 1, the obvious, the suicide note. The presence of the handwritten note expressing remorse and seeking forgiveness showed that he might have been in a dark spot mentally. However, as you remember, first thought thing, when he left, he's like, I'm not going to commit suicide. If anything happens, it's not me. So his family's already suspicious, saying...
And he's in high spirits downstairs, chatting it up and having a good time.
That's another thing that people point out is that he felt like he was so close to figuring this out. Like, he was getting excited. He's like, this is it. Like, this is like the highlight of his career. Like, and they're like, this would not be very fitting for his personality, especially with what's going on in his life. However, I will say that some reports do say that he was in a financial crisis. He was on antidepressants, and he was showing signs of depression. And so some people lead that back to immediately, like, he was capable. But one thing that the family points out is that he was a devout Catholic. And I guess in that religion, they don't believe that you can make it to heaven if you commit suicide.
He was, in his note, it made it sound like he was asking for forgiveness for doing that. So,
which is funny because, not funny, but it's ironic. I thought the same thing. I'm like, in his note, it said, I know deep down inside that God will let me in. To me, that kind of sounds like, I am sorry, please let me in still.
Yeah.
To the family, they thought that meant this is a sign, like he would not have done this. And this is like...
He wasn't forced to.
Right, and this is him signaling to us, like, this is forced. I could see both ways. When I first read it, I was under the impression, like, I'm doing this regardless. Please forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
Until I read more about the family's encounters and their experiences. And they're like, they took it as a sign as the other way around. So along with the suicide note, there's no forced entry, which a hotel room, I don't really know how you have forced entry all that much. But
You'd break in.
But like, how? You can break in a hotel door room? That's crazy.
Probably.
But that's also
probably everyone will see and hear.
Right.
Or maybe come through the window. Maybe he's on the. Maybe they
hotels
rappel
like
down.
yeah, like Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I say hotels like you can never open the window in a hotel room, but
Maybe he has a balcony.
maybe. But I was gonna say, I feel like a lot of times if someone knocks on the door, especially if you're not like expecting somebody potentially, at that point you can just rush in. Like I don't think there needs to be signs, like evidence of intrusion to get into a hotel room. Like
cover the little peephole and then they open it and you rush in.
Yeah, even if I saw someone covering the peephole, I'm not opening that door. Holy crap. That's terrifying. But even then, it's like, if he was expecting someone that didn't show, maybe he's like, oh, my visitor made it, right? Or like, maybe this is him. And according to the police reports, there was also no sign of a struggle. So you kind of imagine like things to be knocked over. The bed still wasn't slept in, so they think that this happened the night before he was found. And so they're, according to cops, they're like, nope, nothing happened here besides he was by himself. Mm-hmm. For the means of death, they said that obviously it was the razor blade that inflicted multiple deep wounds on both wrists, which both wrists also seems suspicious to me.
Really? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I feel like you go. Not good to do that.
Well, 8 in one wrist, severing a tendon. I feel like that'd be pretty hard to get just as deep wounds on the other side. Mm-hmm. I obviously wouldn't know. I'm not medically inclined whatsoever. So if that's physically possible, I'm sure, but difficult, probably.
Yeah, we don't know anything.
We don't know anything. We don't know anything about anything ever. So I think people have caught on, especially pronunciations. That's like our worst. Yeah, we don't read as much as we should. Better. But so like that proved to the investigators this is self-inflicted. Then came the toxicology report. There was traces of codeine from Tylenol and an antidepressant was found in his system, but not level sufficient for like this is so ironic. Why can't I say that right now? We just talked about this. Like when incapacitated. What is the word? Incapacitated. Oh my gosh. I could have just like looked down and read it, but I wanted to say it so bad. Incapacitated him. So like it wasn't high dosage by any means. It seems like it was the prescribed amount. This was a big point for the people who sit on the suicide, though, that he had been going through these different issues that we discussed earlier, and that it was cause for concern that he was in a dark place mentally. But as you know, his family's still not on the suicide side, and they said that these type of life events wouldn't affect him the way that people are saying. And on top of that, there was multiple like empty beer cans and the wine. And the family said he wasn't a heavy drinker. Mm-hmm. To them, this was an indication that somebody else was in the room. Yeah.
People can hide that, though, too.
And also, you can just dump it down the sink. But, I mean, I don't know why you would do that, obviously. But in his report, he had very little, not little, he had a low amount of alcohol in his system.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying, like, if he did have a high amount, like, he could be hiding that from his family that he drinks a lot.
True, that's a good point. Yeah, and so like it's kind of checked out that his family said he doesn't drink a lot, considering he didn't have a lot of alcohol in his system. Mm-hmm. But you're right, that could easily be covered up. Yeah. For the autopsy findings, the cause of death was determined to be blood loss. There's a word for it, exsanguination. Exsanguination. Regardless, blood loss. I'm no medical professional. We all know this. I can't pronounce words, but that ended up being the cause of death, which kind of put out any suspicion of anything else. But it seemed obvious once viewing the scene. One thing that was very odd to me and everyone involved was that Danny's body was embalmed before his family was even notified.
What's embalmed? Like they clean it up and make him clean everything out, basically?
Yeah, embalmed. Typically, it's only done if you are planning on having like a funeral service and stuff because they're trying to preserve the body from not being from decomposition. But what they do is actually remove the blood and fluids, then replace them with chemical solutions to help the prevent the decomposition process. So I thought that was really odd. I guess while standard in some jurisdictions, it just seemed like without even notifying the family, you would think that this would be like, let's notify them first, let them know what's going on, and then move from there. But it seemed odd to everyone that they would go on, and because of this, they weren't in a position to have a second autopsy done.
Oh, interesting.
So it kind of seems like things are getting covered really quick.
Yeah, they like move really fast.
Exactly. And so family's pissed, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But because of these like few different things, whether like the means of death, the toxicology report, those different things, people think it was suicide. That was a suicide theory. Then we have obviously the murder side of things. This is mostly favored by family, friends, people who knew him, but also investigators. We have some like random people like us. And it's not very far-fetched once we dive deeper into what the scene looked like. So, for one thing, Danny, like I said, was known to carry that briefcase. The briefcase, along with all his notes,
Gone.
all the research, gone.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? William, the guy who he got together with the day before, who gave him all this information and intel about his company, that was like maybe a tentacle of the Octopus.
Wait, so that's not the guy who didn't show up?
No, this is the former employee of like the major defense contractor. According to him, William Turner, he gave Danny the papers showing the corruption that Danny believed was tied to the Octopus. But within 24 hours later, Danny was found dead, and all the papers he gave him were nowhere to be found, which is suspicious for many reasons. But it's not like Danny went home. Like, he was only really around the hotel. No one knew him. Like, people were just going to steal his work. And this is like, he's been working on this for over a year. So the family can't find his research at the hotel. It's not at home. Like, they look everywhere they can, and it never turns up. Never, ever been found to this day.
And he was supposed to find or talk to someone else, so he's not going to be doing anything with his bag. He's trying to keep it there so he can make some more notes.
Right, especially if this is like the last piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
He's probably laying out this puzzle.
Yeah, he wasn't hiding it or anything like that.
Right.
He's probably had it with him.
Exactly. So that was like one of the biggest things where I'm like, that's kind of suspicious. Along with that, it's kind of like, not a side note, but something.
And everyone in the hotel saw him with it?
Mm-hmm. Many witnesses said the night before.
Oh, shoot.
Including like the guy across the hall who was talking down at the bar with, the hotel staff.
And they don't know like anything about him, so they're not like
they don't have any reason to be weird. Yeah.
They're just like, oh yeah, he had a brown suitcase he'd carry everywhere.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, that's weird.
Right.
Weird fellow, but good guy.
Weird fellow. I mean, it might have been normal. It probably looked normal if he looks like he's on business.
That's true.
And yeah, so they had no reason to speculate if that was normal or not, I'm sure. So the fact that it was missing threw up some red flags.
Yeah.
One thing that Danny's family always talks about to this day is that I guess Danny had a big fear of blood.
So he probably wouldn't kill himself like that.
Exactly. They're like, if he was in such a depressive state, if he even could go that far to cause self-harm, he was not going to do it in a way that literally horrified him.
Yeah.
Especially like
slow, kind of.
Yeah, slow, repetitive. Like you have to like. That's a long process. I'm sure that you're witnessing. Like this would be horrifying for anybody, especially like if you have that strong of an aversion to blood. It seems unlikely. Mm-hmm. On top of this, as we know, Danny was always worried about his life at this point, saying if anything happened, it wasn't suicide. And the reason he was saying this is because leading up to his death, he was getting phone calls, allegedly, of death threats. He had told his brother that he's getting these calls.
Phone calls are kind of crazy.
Yeah, phone calls are really wild.
Yeah, especially back in that time.
Yeah, that's...
Like how many people have...
They got the yellow phone book, Blake.
Yeah, they probably have just landlines.
That's true. Hey, is Danny home? Yeah, that's creepy. I hate the thought because he already felt probably like he was kind of doing sketchy stuff where he's like, I have potential to really expose something serious. So he's already probably nervous. Then he starts getting these calls. Then he's like gonna go meet up with, so like everything was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And if these calls were happening, that throws up obviously even more suspicion.
Yeah. And that's how you know how obsessed he was with this, because most people get death threats. They'd be like, all right, I'll stop.
Yeah, I'm out. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know if I could continue pursuing something if people are like threatening my life or my family or anything.
True.
Keep in mind, he has a young son, which is really sad. One thing that, well, two things. It was very odd that authorities did not dive deeper into even the possibility of a murder, because there was a witness that reported seeing Danny with an unidentified man of Middle Eastern appearance at the hotel bar the night before his death. This individual was never identified, never found, never questioned, nothing like that. There's nothing more besides that. Like a witness came forward, nothing happened of it. But on top of that, it seems even weirder with along with the witness report, a Freedom of Information Act request revealed that a witness provided also a statement and a sketch of a man seen visiting Danny's hotel room the night before his death. The description matched this man. His name's Joseph Quayer, a man allegedly involved in the psychological operations in the government.
Oh, dang.
This lead was...
Do you think he was like a whistleblower, or do you think he might have been the guy that did something?
I don't know. Literally, this guy is impossible to find any information for. I was like, I'm just going to go see what this guy's up to. Can't find him. He's a ghost. And literally, if you look up his name, it's like Octopus next to it. Like, he's like literally...
That's it.
The only time that he's brought up is for this. And there was never any further investigation. There was never any questioning of him. And so I don't really know how much validity this witness and statement was. I don't know anything about this man besides it seems kind of odd if there was someone kind of more of a government official at his hotel room the night before.
True.
But as we know, allegedly. And this person didn't even identify it as for sure knowing that's the government official. They were like, this is the description. And then everyone's like, oh, that looks like this guy. So even then, it's not like it was positively ID'd or anything like that. Yeah. So just something that's kind of suspicious to think about as well. There were signs to everyone except for apparently authorities that Danny was not alone in his hotel room. His brother is the biggest advocate for this. This is Dr. Anthony Casolaro, is his brother. And he said Danny seemed to be alone in the hotel room during his last moments. Reason being is because in the actual autopsy report...
Wait, you said he seemed like he was alone?
Sorry, he seemed like he was not alone.
Okay.
Thanks for checking. I guess in the actual autopsy report, it described a bruise on his arm and on his head, which were never accounted for. And, I mean, we were told that there was no signs of a struggle. But on top of this, there was 3 fingernail clippings missing from one hand.
That's weird.
Very weird. What do you think?
Maybe he was starting to clip his fingernails, and then the guy knocked on the door, goes over, answers it, forces himself in, and then kills him, cleans up.
Yeah.
Or calls some cleaning lady.
True.
That the CIA or someone uses.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Like, we got cleaning lady. She was, like, on call, ready to roll.
Yeah. I always see, like, assassin movies or something like that.
Like the cleanup crew.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even think about that possibility until just now. My first thought was, like, he got the assassin's DNA under his nails. And they took fingernail clippings, knowing that, like, if they're, like, a professional hitman, they're like, oh, my DNA's under his nails. But also at the time...
I take all the nails.
That's true. Also, at the time, are they thinking that much about DNA? Probably.
Maybe if you're high in the government.
That's what I was saying. Maybe if, like, you're, like, literally a professional, you're like, oh, I know, like, things are rolling in this direction.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about maybe he was in the middle of already clipping his nails. But it's not like they went, like...
If I was a guy, I would have clipped all his nails if I was worried about that, though.
That's true. And it seems kind of weird if you'd scratch someone only 3 nails had DNA. You just assume it's those 3. And it's not like you can, like, see physical DNA unless it's, like, these fingernails are bloody or something like that. But, yeah, so I think your theory
I think I'm crushing it.
Yeah, I think your theory might have made more sense. But regardless, the fact that he had bruising and he had a couple fingernails missing, that just like rung to the family like this is not him doing. Like he's in the middle of clipping his nails. Like now's a good time to like self-harm. No, like that's not likely. Mm-hmm. So like there had to been someone in there, and along with that, like we talked with the beer cans and the wine, he's like, what if someone else drank those? Like obviously there was no like evidence that Danny was the one that was drinking all this alcohol right before he's passing. So it leaves you wondering, did someone come by and they were drinking a couple beers, talking about this, something went wrong? I don't know. Mm-hmm. When Danny's hotel room was cleaned professionally, of course, like you said, after his death, one of the cleaners actually came forth and said that she saw 2 bloody towels in the bathroom minutes after Danny's body was found. And to her, it looked like it was used to wipe blood off the floor. Like, it looked like it was like, I'm going to clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
They're kind of pushed to the side, I imagine.
Maybe his footprint or something's in it.
Right. Maybe his footprint. Yeah. Who knows?
Like boot print.
Right. And someone...
So they had to wipe up certain areas that
were obvious. Yeah. And, I mean, even if it wasn't, like, for evidence, maybe, like, kicking a towel aside or whatever, if Danny was doing this to himself, he's not spending the time cleaning up his own mess. Mm-hmm. It makes me sick to think about. And I don't think that investigators looked into what the housekeeper said at all. It wasn't further questioned. But this is, and also, it's just her opinion. Like, maybe the towels were already in the corner and it somehow smeared in that way to look like it. But considering, I mean, she is a professional house cleaner, you'd think that she'd be like, oh, it looks like someone mopped here or whatever.
Yeah, I can tell.
Right. I have expertise. So everything's adding up to just look extra suspicious. Even Danny's funeral was clouded with mystery. A highly decorated military officer arrived in a limousine, very casual, kind of interesting.
And it's like, oh, don't draw attention.
Don't draw attention. I'll take a limousine. Right. And they showed up near the end of the service. No one at the funeral recognized him. The man carefully placed a medal on the casket just before it was lowered into the ground, allegedly. Anne Clank was a friend of Danny's, and she said that she went back to Frances's house, which was Danny's mother's house, and asked Frances if she knew the military guy. Like, who was that? Turns out Frances didn't know. There was over 50 people said to be at Frances's house after the services, and they were going around asking everyone, who was that guy? Anyone know that guy? No one knew this man.
Yeah, maybe he's working with him on something, and then he found out that he was murdered for it. He's like,
sorry.
Pay some respect.
Yeah. So, yeah, very well could be just one of his one of his sources that no one knew about, and he was actually paying respect. Maybe it was like just an honorary thing to do if he was on the wrong side of things and was trying to still pay respect. Like, sorry, we had to do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you'd draw more attention that case than the other case.
Also, I'm like, decorative military guy, why are you rolling up in like uniform? Like, why is it obvious to everyone that you're military?
Yeah. It's probably how they dress up.
Yeah. So I imagine it was of some sort of honorable thing.
Well, they gave him a medal.
Yeah. And so then allegedly, right? But it was suspicious that no one in the family knew this person, especially considering it seemed like everyone who was in attendance was a known friend or family. Under pressure, the Department of Justice opened an internal review led by Special Counsel Nicholas Bowe. The Bowe report, released in 1993, concluded that Danny's death was suicide. There was no credible evidence of foul play. Proma's software was never stolen by the DOJ, and there was no octopus. He was like, everything under the rug. Nothing. But critics, even like lawyers and journalists and former DOJ insiders said that Bowe's report had so many holes and that key witnesses were never interviewed, leads were dismissed without follow-up, and inconsistencies were explained away instead of examined. One investigator even said it was a whitewash. They're like, we're just going to get rid of this.
Yeah, he's like, glad we spent so much time doing this crappy thing.
I know, seriously. Everything just seemed too fishy. Mm-hmm. So we have those two theories. The suicide by burnout. The most conventional explanation in the simplest form was Danny was exhausted, emotionally overwhelmed, spiritually crushed. He had been chasing... Financially crushed, yeah. He had been chasing a story that was too big, too tangled, and too dark. Maybe he'd... Or I guess reportedly, I don't know for a fact, but he had maxed out his credit cards. He lost key freelance writing gigs and isolated himself from friends who couldn't follow his theories anymore. So he's kind of like a lone ranger trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Some believe he spiraled into depression, took his own life after he realized he never was going to be able to get to the head of the octopus. Even some close to him admit that the weeks before he was seemingly very tired, his notes had grown more chaotic, and that his theories were becoming a little more desperate. So we have that as theory 1. Then, of course, we have theory 2, the darker side of the theories. Mm-hmm. The one that Danny feared himself, that if he got too close, someone was going to silence him. This theory leans heavily on missing evidence. His briefcase that vanished, right? His handwritten research notes that were never found. The source he went to Martinsburg to meet never being identified. No one knows to this day who he's supposed to meet up with. And
maybe that's the person who killed him.
Scary.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was like,
he's like, I have something.
And then he's like, all right, where are you at?
Honestly, maybe. I wonder if... I mean, I'm sure Danny was like meeting with that guy because of his position, like inside job of some sort. So very well could have been someone that had alternative.
Yeah, double agent.
Yeah, double agent. Scary. And on top of that, the FBI supposedly lost key documents related to this investigation. Supposedly.
Classic.
Yeah. So lost, wink, wink. And the autopsy showed deep, clean slices, including cuts that would almost be impossible to inflict alone, according to some people. Me, not a medical examiner, but But this is the case. It would mean that maybe the octopus had more legitimacy than people are giving it credit. Mm-hmm. If it was worth silencing someone, maybe there's some credit there.
Yeah.
So that also shows that maybe the octopus is real. To those who believe in the octopus, Danny wasn't paranoid. He was actually correct. And that Danny has started to compile proof, not just from whistleblowers, but from internal documents, which, like you said, he has internal people. Maybe it was a double guy.
Yeah.
Scary thought.
Or maybe it was that one official guy, military guy that came to his funeral.
He's like...
Not the one that killed him, but maybe he was going to feed him some information.
True. He's like, I'm sorry I didn't show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he feels bad, so he had to go.
Yeah, something. I wish we knew more about his plans. I feel like people like Danny, who are trying to investigate something very serious or get very hands-on, you need to be telling your people exactly what you're doing at all times, who you're seeing, who you're on the phone with. Like, I think everyone's hands need to be involved. But it almost seemed like Danny was worried about that, and he didn't want his friends and families implicated.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, too, because you're trying to break a case, and if people start hearing about it and talking about it, then it's like it can be, not as impactful.
True.
Or not as, wow factor when you bring it out. Yeah, a lot of them are doing that for that too.
That's true, because he's a journalist, right? He wants to be the first to find this out. Mm-hmm. So if he's just talking about it, other journalists are going to pick it up. One thing I have heard, I don't know how legit this is, but I guess sometimes the government likes conspiracy theories and emphasizes them so that it sounds crazy. And they're like, yeah, throw out every conspiracy about the government so no one knows ever what to believe. Mm-hmm. So I actually saw that today because I was like, can I say conspiracy theory on a YouTube channel? And it was like, yeah, sometimes. So I don't know. So sometimes I'm like, is the government feeding into it? Or are they not? Do they want people to talk about this stuff? Do they not? Anyways, suspicious. As far as the whistleblowers go, over the years, a rotating cast of former intelligence officers, journalists, and insiders have come forward to echo parts of Danny's story. But nearly all of them were discredited, dismissed, or disappeared into obscurity. All the major ones. And that's kind of how it works. There is not with dramatic takedowns, but with quiet eliminations. You muddy the water a little bit, you question the sanity, and you cast just enough doubt. So no one knows what to believe anymore. Mm-hmm. Danny himself believed that those who got too close would ultimately face either staged suicides, suspicious accidents, legal and financial ruin, information suppression, or even unusual illnesses and health declines. If the octopus wanted you gone, it had more than one way to make you disappear, he would say.
Dang.
Danny Casolaro died over 30 years ago now, but his story hasn't gone away. Yeah, if anything, it's grown. People are talking about it. I don't know I wasn't super familiar with Octopus. I'm also not heavily involved in trying to figure things out like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like more and more people are questioning the government day and day, which I think it's a fine thing to do. You want to make sure that you're understanding where you live and your laws and your government, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But Danny wasn't a government agent, obviously. He wasn't even an investigative journalist by trade, technically. He was a freelance writer, a father, a friend, someone who believed that the truth could win if he just fought hard enough to find it. But what he was really chasing was order this whole time. A way to explain why the world seems so chaotic and who was really pulling the strings in these like crazy world events.
Yeah.
His family never accepted the suicide ruling. His brother, Dr. Anthony Casolaro, spent years trying to reopen the case with no success. Friends described Danny as charismatic, relentless, and driven by a deep sense of justice. They remember the way he used to carry stacks of manila folders, each one labeled with names, scandals, and dates. Seems like for the times, carrying everything around.
Yep.
They remember the way he spoke about the octopus like it was a real creature haunting his dreams. And maybe to Danny it was. He was a man who followed a story until it swallowed him, one friend said. And journalist John Connolly said he believed Danny got in over his head by saying, quote, Danny Casolaro stepped into a world that he didn't belong in. The type of people that became involved with lies, they cheat. They're people who have been involved in numerous murders, dealing drugs, dealing arms. And Danny Casolaro thought he could find his way through this labyrinth by himself. And that was a mistake. And this is the case of Danny Casolaro and the hunt for the octopus.
Dang, that's crazy.
What do you think?
I love conspiracy theories.
I know, me too. I eat them up.
Yeah, even though they're hard. I have no idea. I think potentially the guy he was supposed to meet set him up, but I don't know.
I feel like, well, first of all, that means you have to have some belief that the octopus is a legit thing.
Yeah.
You legit do?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, I think that there's got to be, like, I don't know if everything is connected.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if everything's connected, but I think there's a lot of things that are real.
Potential
that
truth
are
to that.
Conspiracies.
For sure. So do you think that he was murdered over suicide then?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Murdered.
So your question is who killed him, not if he died of suicide or not.
Yeah, and why? Because it might be a bunch of different things that he's like bringing together, but one section of it is the reason he's dead.
So maybe like the Promise guys are like, you're ruining slandering our name, saying all this stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a tentacle, not the octopus.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also am on the side of it being a homicide, especially for some reason, the briefcase. That tricks me up. Like, he's not going to throw away his work he's been working on for over a year. All the reports he's gathered, all the investigations. So I think that for sure had some, like, solidified it more for me. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, the fact that he was afraid of blood, he never planned on committing suicide because of like religious reasons as well. Like, there's a lot of things I'm like, yeah, I can see that, but I think the briefcase got me sold.
Yeah.
But who?
Yeah, seriously, that was a big part too for me.
Yeah, and it also seems weird. The fingernail clippings, weird to me, and the what looked like a supposed cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's obvious that someone wiped up the floor. That's gonna look like someone wiped up the floor, and I don't think Danny would do that himself.
Yeah. Have you heard about the OpenAI whistleblower that was killed?
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Do we know for sure that happened?
He's for sure killed, but no, they think it's suicide. But
Oh, really?
I listened to an interview with his mom, and it doesn't sound like it. But
what was his story?
I don't know. We'll talk about it another time.
I
I don't
just
really
curious.
know it too well.
Oh, just like, because I was just curious what OpenAI, like, he was just saying.
He was a whistleblower. He worked there and stuff.
I didn't realize he was a whistleblower.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so dangerous being whistleblowers these days. Everyone
Scary.
is allegedly suicidal at that point. So
Yeah.
very scary, very interesting case. I think Danny was onto something.
Yeah. Could be.
So anyways, that is our what do we call it?
Allegedly. I forget. We'll have to look back and see what he said.
Dang it, we gotta come up with something. This is today's allegedlys. So now, Blake, do you have any not so fun facts for us?
Yep, I have some facts for us about true conspiracy facts.
Okay.
The CIA dosed people with LSD without consent under MK Ultra. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah. I don't know too much about it either, but I've heard a lot.
That's wild.
Just sometimes I listen to podcasts and it just goes.
And it just comes in at one ear out there.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
wait, it's like a drive-by.
Yes.
That's wild. Wasn't like Hitler soldiers on LSD and stuff like that?
I don't know.
I've heard like crazy stuff about that.
Probably.
I'll have to ask Brett. He knows all the random stuff.
Yeah. The FBI spied on Martin Luther King Jr. and tried to convince him to kill himself.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that conspiracy either.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Cigarette companies knew smoking caused cancer and lied about it for decades.
I feel like I've heard that before. That's fact, though. That's not a conspiracy, right?
Yeah, these are true conspiracy
Oh,
facts.
these are true.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So all this is legit.
Oh, I mean, according to ChatGPT, you never know.
Yeah. So allegedly, they're legit. Wow.
Yeah. Alrighty, and then big oil companies knew about climate change in the 1970s and funded denial campaigns.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, don't ruin our company. Like,
Yeah.
it's not happening.
Exactly.
Seems like something business people would do.
Yeah. So this is popular but false.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what that means, but I'll just read it.
Like, wildly believed, even though there's no credibility, probably.
Maybe. There is zero evidence that the moon landing was faked. NASA has over 800 pounds of moon rocks.
Okay, I'm going to say I don't believe in the moon landing.
Okay.
I know that's a hot take. I don't think I can get behind it. Maybe that's time for another day, but
This was one we know a lot about. Chemtrails are just condensation, not chemicals sprayed by the government.
I always crack up about that.
Me too.
This is funny. Brett sent me Joe Rogan's very first podcast yesterday just to like see what it was like, because it's kind of funny. It's like him and Jamie on like webcam, you know?
Yeah.
And Joe is talking about chemtrails, and he's like, I'm friends with pilots, and they're telling me it's not that, you know? So
Yeah.
if you're curious about that, Joe Rogan's very first podcast, he dives into it a little bit.
Yeah. The earth is not flat. Even airlines use
Hilarious. We're an airline.
I don't even know how to say it.
That's okay.
Spherical calculations to fly.
It's like deviation.
And then COVID vaccines don't contain microchips or magnets. That was 100% internet myth.
Yeah, I feel like I never got behind anything like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm back and forth about certain vaccines, but only things that haven't been tested long enough. I just want to see like a 20-year vaccine to make sure like long-term side effects, but not like the government's tracking us type of stuff.
Yeah. All right, a couple more. These are conspiracy stats.
Okay.
50% of Americans believe the government is hiding evidence of aliens. I think so.
I think so too. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Only 4% of scientists believe the moon landing was faked.
What?
Compared to 10% of the general public.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
We're going to have to dive down that one of these days.
Yeah.
Seems so hard to believe. Have you seen the videos of the moon landing? Looks so bad. And you're telling me they just like call like the president's landline? At least that part had to be fake. Because like, come on.
Mm.
I got service from the moon. Mr. President, we made it. Like, come on.
That's it for today.
Nice. I like going down these rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I kind of like that it leaves it up for interpretation, even though kind of sad stories.
Yeah. We're also changing our name to Siblings in Crime and Conspiracies.
Yeah. Siblings and crime and conspiracies and murder and everything else.
And mystery and
Camping.
Scary camping.
Everything under the sun. Yes. So thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll be back next Wednesday for another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Adios.